a plant that grew unnoticed beneath people's feet while armies marched, kingdoms rose and fell, and epidemics swept across continents. It was used as medicine on 3 continents for more than 1,000 years. A Chinese pharmacy still fills prescriptions with it under a name older than the United States itself. In a laboratory today, it acts against strains of a virus that have outlasted the leading prescription drug. Then modern medicine arrived, and this humble purple flower faded into obscurity. But what if that was a mistake? Because in modern laboratories, scientists have discovered that compounds inside this forgotten herb can block viruses from entering healthy cells, fight inflammation, support the immune system, and even show promise against some forms of cancer. The English gave it 4 names, and every single one of them is a promise. Self-heal. Heal all heal. Woundwort. And it is almost certainly growing in your lawn right now. What almost no one in America knows is that, a century ago, this plant, and nearly every plant like it, was written out of American medicine on purpose, not by accident, by committee, on paper, with signatures. The schools that taught it were shut down, the textbooks that named it were shelved. The doctors who used it were relabeled as quacks. This is the remarkable story of self-heal, scientifically known as Prunella vulgaris, the tiny purple flower with one of the biggest reputations in herbal history. London, 1597. The English herbalist John Gerard sat down to write The Herbal, one of the great botanical works of the Elizabethan age. When he reached a humble plant called self-heal, he gave it praise that few herbs ever received. "In the world there are not 2 better wound herbs," he wrote, "as hath been often proved." He was not the first to say so, and he was nowhere near the last. For centuries, self-heal was applied to minor cuts and wounds. So closely was it associated with treating the nicks and injuries common among craftsmen that it earned one of its oldest folk names, Carpenter's herb. Its scientific name is Prunella vulgaris. Prunella comes from a German word associated with a severe infection of the mouth and throat. The plant earned that title because it was one of the remedies people reached for when their throats became painfully swollen. And today, modern laboratories are discovering that the old herbalists may have been onto something extraordinary. Medieval healers applied it directly to cuts and wounds. Some believed it could stop bleeding almost immediately. Others brewed it into teas and gargles to treat sore throats, mouth ulcers, and infections. Monasteries throughout Europe cultivated self-heal in medicinal gardens. In an age before antibiotics, every effective healing plant was precious. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, traditional Chinese medicine developed its own long relationship with the herb. There, self-heal became known as Xia Ku Cao, meaning summer-withered grass. Chinese physicians used it to reduce swelling, calm inflammation, and address conditions associated with excessive internal heat. Unlike delicate garden flowers, self-heal is a survivor. It spreads through underground rhizomes and creeping runners, creating dense carpets of greenery across meadows, woodland edges, roadsides, and even neglected lawns. Its square stems immediately reveal its membership in the mint family. The leaves grow in opposite pairs and are smooth or lightly toothed. But the most recognizable feature appears during flowering season. At the top of each stem emerges a compact purple flower spike that resembles a tiny medieval crown. These vivid purple blooms attract bees, butterflies, and other pollinators, making the plant an important contributor to local ecosystems. Because it spreads aggressively and reseeds itself, many gardeners consider it a weed. Most people who have heard its name have no idea they are actually looking at it. For most of the 20th century, that 1,000-year record sat quietly, filed away as peasant folklore. Then modern laboratories caught up. In 2004, a team of researchers publishing in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology took a fraction drawn from self-heal and tested it against herpes simplex virus, both type 1 and type 2, in infected cells. the plant compound cut the virus down, the amount needed to inhibit it was strikingly small, around 20 micrograms per milliliter. That alone was interesting. But here's the detail almost everyone missed. The standard prescription drug for herpes is acyclovir. Over the years, certain strains of the virus have learned to survive it. Doctors call them acyclovir-resistant strains, and they are a real and growing problem. Because when that drug stops working, the medicine cabinet begins to run out of answers. The self-heal extract worked on those resistant strains too. Think about that for a second. A plant from the lawn acted against strains that had already beaten the pharmacy. In 2024, researchers writing in the journal Chinese Medicine traced how it does this. The plant's compounds appear to block the virus from latching onto cells in the first place. They also quiet an inflammatory pathway that the virus relies on to survive. As far back as 1990, a clinical report described 78 people with herpes infections of the eye who were treated with drops made from this plant. 38 were cured, 37 improved. Only 3 did not respond. Out of 78 people, 75 got measurably better. You would think a result like that would sit on every doctor's shelf in America. It does not. And the reason why is the real story of this archive. In a brick building that had trained American physicians for nearly 100 years, the eclectic medical institute graduated its final class. 3 years later, in 1942, it surrendered its charter and locked its heavy doors for the last time. The eclectics were not fringe practitioners. They were a serious American school of medicine built on botanical remedies, blending European folk practices with Native American knowledge. Their leading doctors compiled one of the most complete records of American plant medicine ever assembled, a massive volume called King's American Dispensary. The 1898 edition ran to thousands of plant entries. Self-heal lived inside that world. So how does a 100-year-old school of medicine simply die? It started with a single report. At the time, it was presented to the public as a necessary reform, the Flexner Report, 1910. It was written by Abraham Flexner, an educator who had never practiced a day of medicine in his life, and it was funded by the Carnegie Foundation. Flexner traveled the country and inspected more than 150 medical schools, judging every one of them against a single, rigid model. Laboratory science, pharmaceuticals, surgery. A school that taught plant medicine, water cures, or homeopathy did not fit that model, and Flexner said so in plain, punishing language. Plant medicine, water cures, homeopathy, any of it was outside the framework he described. But he did not work alone. The American Medical Association had created its Council on Medical Education back in 1904. Historians who have studied the period have documented that the AMA had reasons to favor a more standardized profession. The report gave that standardizing machinery exactly the weapon it needed. What followed was not subtle. Nearly half of the medical schools in America closed or merged within a few decades. The botanical schools could not afford the expensive new requirements. More importantly, they did not fit the new, officially sanctioned definition of medicine. By the 1930s, only a handful remained. The Eclectic Institute in Cincinnati held on the longest. Then it, too, was gone. But this was never really about one school in Ohio. When those doors closed, an entire American pharmacopoeia closed with them. The plants were not disproven. They were delisted, written out of the curriculum, out of the textbooks, and out of the training a young doctor would ever receive. It was not a smoky conspiracy with one villain sitting in one room. It was something quieter and far more permanent. A standard written down in ink that had no column for a wild plant. And here is where the story reaches you directly. Self-heal still grows in lawns across America from coast to coast. Every summer, millions of people mow it, pull it, and spray it as a nuisance. The plant the English literally called heal-all is now something many people pay a chemical service to remove. But the plant never read the report. It kept coming up in the same fields and the same lawns, year after year, doing exactly what it has always done. waiting. The way these plants always seem to wait. Waiting for someone to look down and finally recognize it. So learn to see it. Most people think of self-heal only as medicine, but historically it was also food. Every aerial part of the plant is edible. Leaves, young shoots, flowers. Traditional foragers consumed it raw in salads, cooked it in soups and stews, or brewed it into refreshing herbal drinks. Its flavor is slightly bitter and mildly astringent. Nutritionally, self-heal contains vitamins A, B, C, and K, along with flavonoids and antioxidant compounds. One honest caution: self-heal draws up whatever is in the soil where it grows. So gather it only from clean ground that has never been sprayed with herbicides, pesticides, or other chemicals. You do not need a prescription to walk into your own front yard. You do not need anyone's permission to learn the name of a plant that has been standing there the whole time, in plain sight, while the report that wrote it out of the textbooks gathers dust. If this story changed how you see the weeds in your own grass, don't let this knowledge slip away again. Because sometimes the most remarkable discoveries are not hidden in distant rainforests or locked away in laboratory vaults. Sometimes they are growing quietly beneath your feet. And they have been there all along.